Hello lovelies, I am the Fragnostic and I warmly welcome you to another Retro Rumble in which we'll be exorcising Sega's arcade light gun shooter Laser Ghost, released way back in 1989. Last week we offered the most high-born of blood sacrifices to the great gods of gaming when we pulled off a spectacular no-death run of the near-invincible ghosts and goblins, but I'm happy to say, for the sake of my blood pressure at least, that we've shifted down a few gears and car models and wheels with Laser Ghost, which is, by all accounts, a colourful, enjoyable and mostly relaxing way of burning 20 minutes and a few quarters. Pop your money in and you get a diagram of the gun, which wasn't actually as ridiculously unwieldy to aim as it seems here, as it was mounted on the cabinet itself, which actually used a unique method of projecting your gunfire onto the screen, by way of utilising a rotating mirror to create the convincing illusion of a laser beam that appeared to fire from your gun all the way into the display. Awesome. Let's get us some plot here. Life is good in Town City.
Eat it properly or a gargoyle will get you.
And then it does. The gargoyle floats there looking smug, but oh my god, lasers, what the fuck, girl? And here comes the drunkest looking ghost fighting team you have ever laid eyes on. They are blazed as fuck, aren't they? Gina Gin Pounder, Tommy Tweaker, and the last dude won't answer to any conventional name. You just scream at a pile of cocaine and he erupts from underneath it like a fucking crack yeti. So the gameplay is almost redundantly self-explanatory, but I'll go for it anyway. Shoot all the things, use a special weapon if you get in trouble. As you can see up the top there, up to 3 players can huddle around the cabinet, blasting the bejesus out of the supernatural, each taking on the role of one of the 3 substance abusers we saw in the cutscene, whose real names are actually Bill, Max and Carol. I don't know who's who, don't even know if Carol's the one that looks like a woman. Meth's a hell of a drug. You don't know what you're bringing home to bed with you. Laser Ghost is easy enough for one person playing, so if you get to having 2 buddies going to town on it with you, it's practically bullying, but what you might notice right off the bat is that, thematically at least, it bears a striking resemblance to a certain famous movie franchise that recently wound a lot of people up by daring to sell them a 3rd installment with an all-female cast. Yes indeedy, this is, for all intents and purposes, Ghostbusters, the gun game. I mean, that's not the reason I didn't like the movie. I just didn't like it because it was awful. Nothing to do with the gender of the mouths that horrible dialogue was forcing itself out of. I'm not going to go on about it here, but look, my entire thoughts on that movie can be summed up by the final battle where they're fighting their own logo. Somebody wrote that, at least a dozen other people read it and said, yeah, awesome. And then it happened, and let me just say this. In my America, those people would be put up against a wall and shot. That's it. No more. Now, what might seem odd about Sega making a Ghostbusters knockoff is that barely even a year later they released an official Ghostbusters game with Activision on the Sega Genesis, but what actually appears to have happened is that Data East, who had the license to bring out the real Ghostbusters in arcades in 1987, were hanging on to those arcade rights with ragged fingernails. And strangest of all is that when the real Ghostbusters came out in Japan, it was rebranded so that it had absolutely nothing to do with the Ghostbusters franchise whatsoever, and was instead called Labyrinth Hunter G. Alright, we've arrived to smash up the hotel with our laser guns and anti-ghost missiles now, which again is reminiscent of one of the great sequences in the original Ghostbusters movie where they're hired to capture Slimer at the swanky Sedgwick Hotel and wind up causing about twice the property value and damages in the process. As colourful and inoffensive as Laser Ghost is, Sega pulled kind of a half-arsed job on it compared to the other light gun blasters they had out at the time. In the late 80s, Rogue Commando shooters were where it was at. Line of Fire, Operation Thunderbolt, Mechanized Attack. I mean, all of those basically just built on top of Operation Wolf, which was 2 years prior, and never really bettered it, but I never got to play Laser Ghost until I discovered arcade emulators. What I did get to play was Laser Ghost on the Sega Master System, and that let me tell you, that game is nothing like this. I don't know if you've ever seen a game called Crossbow by Exidy, the same company that made the utterly stomach-churning torture simulator Chiller, but the idea was that you had a party of people walking across various hazardous environments, and you had to use your light gun to protect them by killing off like bats and snakes and giant ants and fallen volcano boulders and so forth. It was awesome. So Sega took that concept and used it for the Master System version of Laser Ghost, except you only had to protect one girl, the hit detection was fucking appalling, and you would need to have basically the sniping skills of a war hero fed through the Soviet propaganda machine to even begin to tackle the swarms of enemies that wanted her dead. It was so insanely broken that it defied belief, and I never got a chance to really get better at it, because the Master System was around my nan's house, and me and my brother used to play it to entertain ourselves on our frequent trips around there. We only ever had 5 games for the Master System, and bar Sonic the Hedgehog, neither of us could get past the first level on any of them. There was Ghouls and Ghosts, Psychic World, Cyber Shinobi, and Space Harrier, which on that console is just the most broken fucking thing you will ever play, I promise you. But, man, that was a different time. We had a Mega Drive at home, and it blew my mind that Sonic the Hedgehog on the Master System and Sonic on the Mega Drive were 2 completely different games with completely different levels. Back then, when a game came out, and it was out in the arcades, it was out on the NES, the Genesis, the Master System, Game Gear, the Super NES, man, you'd be getting at least 4 different versions of the same thing. And I don't mean a little tweak here and there, they were just totally separate experiences. But, actually, while we're playing a game about ghosts, although I admit they're not really up there with anything from Fatal Frame on the terror scale, I'd be genuinely interested to know if any of you guys have ever experienced anything paranormal. Because I consider myself a highly skeptical person. I'll believe in nothing without extensive evidence to support it, but I've seen some shits. To put it plainly, I have seen some shits. But again, from a skeptic's perspective, there are only 2 times in my life that I can rule out any outside influence in those experiences, be it drugs or... Yeah, drugs. Yeah, it was usually drugs. But I'm going to open the sharing circle by telling you about something that happened to me while I was at my nan's place when I was very young that, to this day, I have absolutely no rational explanation for. So, I would have been 9 or 10 years old. My nan and granddad had just been moved from a high-rise block of flats in Walthamstow, which were being demolished to make way for an industrial park of some description. And they were moved to a new apartment complex a couple of miles away in Leytonstone. Now, my dad had been separated from my mum for a few years at this point. After they separated, my mum developed severe agoraphobia, which, for those of you who just said, what the fuck is an agora? Agoraphobia is an extreme fear of open or public places. She beat it through plenty of support groups and counselling while she raised me and my brother, and went on to do great things. Be loved by so many people. Like her funeral earlier this year, over 200 people turned up and packed out the chapel, and that was in the middle of the working week, so that was really something. But back then, we spent a lot of time with my nan and granddad because she found it difficult to cope on her own. And the first night we spent in my grandparents' new place, I saw something. And as soon as I walked in there, I clocked that there was what looked like a pretty sizable bump in the floor of the hallway. Not enough that you'd trip over it, but enough that the carpet hung funny on it. And that night, as me and my brother slept in the living room, I woke up at some pitch black hour of the AM and I needed to take a leak, so I got up and I stepped outside into the hallway. Now there were no lights on except for the glow of the streetlights through the windows of the kitchen and the rear patio windows from the living room, but I very clearly saw an elderly, frail-looking woman with her back to me, standing just about where that bump in the floor would have been. Now I knew it wasn't my nan because my nan was neither elderly or frail-looking. She's a big lady, my nana. Not as big as she was, but both my grandparents were big, round people, and it seemed like just as soon as I clapped eyes on her, she slowly started moving down the passageway away from me. Mostly walking, but just ever so slightly gliding as well. Now, she appeared to be dressed in like a nightdress with a shawl around her shoulders, but the most notable thing about that was that the nightdress looked like it was black and burnt up one side and around the trim. And I watched this woman glide all the way down to the end of the passage, tightly turn the corner into the bathroom and disappear. I think the whole thing lasted maybe 6 or 7 seconds. I think. Now, I didn't know what the fuck to think. I was a little bit scared, obviously. Not scared as the first time I saw a ghost or something, or whatever you want to call it, because I felt incredibly threatened by that one, but this old lady didn't make me feel particularly afraid, but nevertheless I wasn't going anywhere near that fucking bathroom, so I went back into the living room, shut the door and pissed out the patio window instead. Now when my nan woke up, I told her all about it, and she kept asking me what my mom had said, or if anybody had told me anything about the place, but nobody had. All I knew about that apartment complex was that it was a new build, and I only knew that because my nan was the one that had told me. But it turned out that this apartment complex was built on top of the ruins of a much older one that had been gutted by a fire, and although almost all of the residents escaped, there had been one old lady that didn't get out in time and sadly went down with the building, and according to my granddad, that bump in the floor was from where the new apartments were thrown up so quickly over the old ones that they didn't completely dig all the existing groundwork out. So, there you go. I swear to you, on all that is holy, that is completely true. And I've never had so much as a sniff of an explanation for it, so yeah, go ahead. I'll be proper interested to hear about anything crazy that you've gone through yourselves. Truth be told, I'm looking for anybody with at least one story of a cooked turkey becoming possessed at the dinner table and attacking somebody. Just one. Or dancing. I'd settle for it dancing a jig. But really, any stories are fine. This dude attacks you by licking you. That's literally his whole game plan. I think, besides the fact that there is no way to break his attack loop, and therefore you cannot no-hit run this game, which is why I'm not bothering as much of all that today. Besides that, he might be my favourite enemy in the whole of Laser Ghost. He drops down on a noose right in your face like, oh shit, what's he gonna do? And he just goes at you like a friendly dog, or a lonely widower on a first date that has just completely misread the situation. I don't think it justifies rinsing my health bar out over, though, does it? Maybe my mental health bar. If a dude swung past me on a noose and licked my face, I'd be pretty unnerved for the rest of the day. Gotta add that one to my random sanity event table for the Call of Cthulhu RPG. A fat corpse licks your ear. Make a saving throw. Lose your fucking mind! I've always wanted to run a game of that where it has nothing to do with Lovecraft, but just minor everyday events conspire to wear you down. Suddenly a smelly man sits next to you on the bus. You're certain that his pungent body odour is starting to seep into your own clothing. 75 or better stops you from attacking him with your groceries. Is that cat watching you? Pick up the dice and let's see what your violent paranoia decides. Alrighty, last level now, as we have tracked both the gargoyle and the kidnapped girl to this mansion in the middle of a cemetery. It's the possessed inanimate objects that get me in this game. Or all games, in fact. Not so much possessed knives or weapons, or even some heavy furniture, that I can understand, but there were shirts attacking us earlier. Shirts. What the fuck is a shirt gonna do to you? Make you wear it? Ah, this shirt is so ugly that it's literally killing me. What, are people gonna turn around to you while you're saving their city? Like, great job with the ghosts and all, but my god, you dress like a dick. No, it's not my fault. The ghosts made me wear it. Like, we played Haunted Castle on here a few weeks back, and one of the enemies was one I mentioned earlier, a possessed roast turkey. Not a giant roast turkey or anything, just your run-of-the-mill, feeds a family of 4 regular roast turkey. I don't understand the threat. Is it poisoned? Is Simon Belmont allergic to poultry? Come on. It just insults the mythos of your own game. It's bad enough that a legendary vampire hunter like Simon Belmont would be felled by a base-ranking zombie or whatever, but a roast turkey killed by somebody's dinner? And whose dinner is that even meant to be? Vampires can't eat or drink anything except blood, can they? Or has there been another teen gothic novel movie adaptation out about vampires that retcons all of that? Can't keep up with them all nowadays. Bit of a nod to The Exorcist there. I'm not sure what those hands are doing. Maybe it's some sort of crude Japanese gesture that I'm unaware of, but here's the final boss, and also the very girl that you have been chasing after the entire game. That's it, girl. Cry the devil out of you. So now Laser Ghost pulls a splatterhouse on you by transforming this innocent sugar lump princess into a jowly, pale-eyed hate bitch with a scythe, and again, I don't think there's any real way to interrupt her attack pattern here. It's an arcade game. It wants your money. It's given you a pretty easy ride up to here, I guess, so I do understand its panicked fumbling for the change in your pockets in this late stage. Her second form is this many-faced mistake on legs, and none of the faces look convincingly like they want to be here. The big one in the middle looks like he hasn't slept for a few days. Two to his right are wearing that same expression that dogs give you when you catch them shitting on the rug, but goes down easy enough. And yeah, doesn't go the whole way down the Splatterhouse road by killing her. Your incredible aim just managed to shoot all the paranormal hoo-ha out of her without inflicting any damage to her internal organs. These townspeople aren't actually baring their teeth at you, believe it or not. They're throwing a parade in your honour. What is up with that guy's eye? I never figured it out. Is he blind in it? Is he battling conjunctivitis? Anybody's fucking guess. The end. Well done. Don't the mother and daughter still look demonic as fuck there? Sequel baits. Dun dun dun. Nah, this never got a sequel. What a shock. That's all for this week, lovelies, but won't you join me next Monday on Retro Rumble? Won't you say you will? Because when you're taking on a game as mortifyingly hilarious as Frankenstein, the Monster Returns on NES, well, just wouldn't do to keep all the laughs for myself now, would it? Even though, by rights, they are mine.
Prehistoric bitch, how we do things downtown.